Ayo, the double jokers are going crazy as Blue Lock sends France into a frenzy. Hey, what's going on guys, Ace here, and today we are going to review leaks for chapter 340. Now you have to understand, the leaks are only 10 pages and are for part 1 of the chapter, and this is because Nomura, the guy who draws Blue Lock, is actually sick, and so wish him well guys. However, let's not waste any time and jump right into the action, because this is exactly what this chapter did. It immediately jumped into the action and it immediately continues one of the best games in Blue Lock. The players are feeling the heat and the commentators are going crazy. As one of them goes, the fierce battle continues. Japan versus France enters the second half. And so what will be the new tactics for both camps? And this actually got me thinking, France did not have any substitutes. Do they think that they can contain Baro and Shido with the same players? This will be interesting to see. However, let's start with the game, as we see things from Hyugo and Loki's perspective, as Isagi immediately gives the ball from the center to Karasu. And notice here that Karasu is actually way up, and this is because Kunigami is falling back. And I immediately love this. I immediately love how everyone counts on Kunigami. He truly shines as the hero of the team. In any case, immediately after getting the ball, Karasu himself does not waste any time and forwards it to Shido, who is guarded by Chappa, which is interesting because Shido could not shake off Chappa. However, this is just the beginning and it's not an issue for Shido because in a singular touch he gives it to Ryo, who is guarded by the fast player from France who was on Chigiri before. However, Ryo himself does exactly what Karasu and Shido did and immediately gives the ball away in one touch. And this time he gives it back to Karasu, who is way up in the field, who by the way breaks easily from the two defenders on him. I am telling you guys, the new Karasu is insanely OP, not just because he is selling his soul for Blue Lock, but also even his meta vision and his movements are far better than what we've seen before. In any case, after tricking the two players on him and he is getting ahead in the field, he gives it back to Ryo, who immediately forwards it to Shido. And I love this, they are not giving France any time to think, which is actually very good because they have Hyugo, and if you give a smart guy like that any time, you would know he would control the field and completely destroy you. However, as Shido got the ball, Charles was the first to comment, and he is very excited about the game. Oh, I see it right now. And Loki jumps into the conversation. Yeah, so they've changed their tactics entirely. And Hyugo confirms everything by saying, well, this is a total transformation from the first half. It's a triangular build with Tabito Karasu as the starting point. And by the way, Charles is excited, and Loki seems to be concentrated. However, Hyugo seems to be not interested whatsoever. He simply doesn't care at all. However, once more, notice how he complimented Karasu. He is the starting point for this attack for a reason, and it seems that Hyugo really took interest in him, and this is because they scored before thanks to Karasu. Now, in Hyugo and Loki's mind, that Karasu once more is going for a goal that does not rely on both Rin and Isagi. Instead, he is trying to leverage Ryo and Shido, and so having noticed this, Charles immediately jumps and blocks Shido's path. As I suspected in my previous video, Charles is going to be the one to stop Shido from going crazy behind the scenes, and I love this because it signals they are equals. Even if Shido's agility is insanely superior to Charles's, I think with his insane meta vision and his sniper eyes, he is the perfect guy to stop Shido. And this means that once we see more from these two, I am going to do a matchup between them, because this seems like it would be a heated battle in this game. In any case, however, it wasn't just Charles who did not waste any time, because as soon as Shido got the ball, he immediately forwarded to Hiyori, completely shifting the balance of the field to an entirely new attacking pattern. And Charles actually senses this. He says, wait, this is a massive shift all at once? Wow, Blue Lock, you cannot be underestimated. And then once more, the goalkeeper actually has something to say. He says, so that's how they are doing it. Tabito Karasu is not the only starting point. And of course, we all know this because Renoir actually faced Hiyori in the NEL, and he understands that when Hiyori gets the ball from that position, he is about to build an attack. And so that's exactly what he does, and before any player could actually pressure him, he immediately gives the ball back to Karasu. And I just love this. Karasu seems to be the real focal point of this team, and honestly this pushes his stocks very high, like he is on Isagi and Rin's level of control at this point, and as you can tell, I am fanboying the shit out of him. In any case, let's actually talk about what Hiyori did here, because as soon as he got the ball, and before he even got pressure, he immediately forwarded to Karasu, and that's also they don't don't give Hugo the timing he needs in order to read them. And I love this because it seems that Blue Lock really knows how to fight, and I am all here for it. In any case, as Hiyori gives the ball to the crow, he thinks to himself, we are going to go forward with Karasu's insane build-up and my pace change, while using the shared vision of both of us as the primary attack starting point. And as soon as I read this, I went crazy. This is actually akin to a no-connection play, but it is between midfielders. They start the attack without any eye contact by sharing the information through metavision. And what this means is that Hiyori is very capable of playing next to Sai and Karasu in the future. And so I am really happy for the blue guy, because this means that Sai doesn't necessarily render him obsolete. It only means that he could play with an insane player like that and improve his plays at the same time. This game is just packed with little details, and it proves why it is one of the best we've seen in this show. In any case, however, in a completely shocking fashion, Karasu actually does not catch the ball and he leaves it to go past him, seemingly to Shido. However, right behind Karasu is Isagi, who intercepts the ball. It seems that Blue Lock have trained very well for situations like this, to the point this attack is really successful that Loki himself has to intervene. And here I gotta pat myself in the back, because I kept telling you I am the Blue Lock guy, because Hiyori thought to himself that he and Karasu would coordinate, however Isagi would move in the shadows. And that's exactly my previous video. I made it like 2 days ago, and I suspected that because of Hugo, Isagi will start to move from the shadows. And that's exactly what he did, as he thanks Karasu for leaving the ball for him. However, as I said, Loki intervened and he tells him, well, I can read that much, you didn't really do anything special. And what he means by this is that I'm not a talented learner like you or Hugo, but I could read such a play. Which means Loki might not just be fast, he could be like Lorenzo, Rin, and Noah with an insane perception as well. In any case, much like before, Isagi does not waste any time and immediately forwards the ball to Rin. And he tells Loki, we knew you would read this. And then Rin says, let's go, it's egoist meeting egoist. Rin and Isagi want too. And then again, as Loki was turning to him, he immediately gives the ball to Isagi. And prepare yourself guys, because what happens in the next panel could only be described as pure insanity. Have we ever seen a guy by himself stops a 1-2? This never happens. Usually, in order to stop a 1-2, two players at least need to be involved. However, Loki was on Ren, and as soon as the ball was going to Isagi, he follows it in an insane burst of speed and he closes the gap to Isagi immediately. All of this while looking very calmly without sweating and telling Isagi, well, this is too slow, you're still within my range. And here this is very interesting because it seems that Loki actually has a range, and him stopping the Kaiser impact might have been because it was within his range. I mean, it is still the best feat we've seen in all of Blue Lock, don't get me wrong, but this way it kinda gets explained a little bit. However, contrary to the NEL, and this proves that Isagi improved a lot, instead of losing the ball to Loki, he actually holds it for a second before giving it away, and as he does that, he tells Loki, well, you see, there is one more link up from the shadows. And there, of course, with only one player left, Isagi immediately gives it to Baro, who by the way seems to be within range. However, Gabin and another defender are in front of him, and so I am very curious to see what happens next, as Baro says the following, it's time to go rogue. And there the chapter ends with the following short statement. The starving beast eyes its prey, to be continued in part 2 labeled No Guard. This chapter has to be one of the fastest moving chapters we've seen in the entirety of Blue Lock. Like, things were so quick that Blue Lock did not give any breather for France, and I am all here for it. However, even though I am the biggest Baro fan, I honestly do not think he would score. Because one thing that is very clear in this chapter, Hugo is nowhere to be seen. He is watching things from the shadows, and you have to remember he excels in thriving in the shadows. And so even though Baro does not see him right now, I have a feeling that Hugo would have a saying in the next chapter and he might end up stopping Baro. Otherwise, I think the goal would have been scored very easily, and it's not of Baro's nature. However, at the same time, it's not of Baro's nature to be predictable, and so if anyone could break Hugo's system right here, it would be Baro. And you have to remember, the Predator Eyes are still the best weapon for a situation like this. For a situation where a system is put on Baro, the best weapon to break through is definitely the Predator Eyes. And so the next matchup is going to go crazy. I am calling it, it's going to be Baro versus Hugo. Now, as to what Baro would do exactly, I don't know, I don't think he would pass because I doubt Blue Lock Lock would give the ball back to Barrow if he does. And so either he would figure something different, or his training that he had with the rugby team would show its results here. And so I am really excited but scared at the same time, because it is Hugo at the end of the day. And if anyone is to destroy Blue Lock entirely, it has to be him. However, what do you guys think about this chapter? To me personally, it continues the streak of perfect chapters in this game. There hasn't been a chapter that I would give under 9 score in the entirety of this game, which honestly says a lot about how insane it is. However, that's all I've got for you today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, thank you for watching.